Hi, good evening. My name is Jay Rothman. I am the host of Real Men, Real Talk Live. Hi, good evening. I am the host of the show again. My name is Jay Rothman. I would like to introduce my co-host. We have Josh Richer coming in from somewhere in South America. Welcome to the show, Josh Richer. We have Jeff Asano joining us from Nashville, Tennessee. And of course, we have Everslove Heath, the man of the land from down under. He calls Australia home. Welcome to the show, guys. One more week is off the records in 2021. And welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Man, I was doing some grocery shopping yesterday. Can you believe the Easter eggs are back in stores? What's going on, man?
Wow.
This is crazy. Yeah, time is flying, man. But thanks for having us again, brothers.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to take a moment here to welcome our viewers and listeners that are watching us live or on replay. If you should hear something that you like or love, with love, please tap your love button on your monitor and let us know that you are in alignment with what we're sharing. If you should have any questions or comments at any time during the show, please drop them down in the comments and we'll do our best to answer any questions that may come forward and acknowledge some of the wisdom that comes through tonight's topic. Also, viewers, if you are relatively new or if this is the first time you are joining us on Real Men Real Talk Live, please let us know where you refer to as home today, what city, state, or country. We always love to know where you're joining us in from. And with that, tonight's topic, coming off of last week, of course, we had the Rosie Mercado joining us, coming in from Los Angeles. Our topic last week was infidelity in relationships, and that was quite a show, quite a topic that we really dissected. This week's topic is another hot one because it's something that we all are challenged with almost on a daily basis if we don't pay attention. And that topic is a big one. It's the big capital F word, fear. And so what I'd like to do is invite Mr. Jeff Asano to kick us off this evening and kind of just get us going on this topic of fear. What does fear mean? And we'll take it from there. Mr. Fasano, welcome to the show again.
Wow. Thank you, everybody. You know, what popped into my head as you were just saying that is fear of the unknown. Mm-hmm. I think we have fears of certain things, fears of intimacy, fear of connection, fear of letting go, fear of this, fear of that. And it just popped into my head that most of our fears are really the fear of the unknown, the fear of what's through that open door, and there's nothing on the other side of that open door, and it's all unknown. And in many ways, it's why we may hold on in relationships longer than we should. We are so accustomed in our comfort zones of the known, whether we are enjoying it or not, whether it serves us or not, whether it raises our resonance and vibration or not. And then when we realize that and we're in this place of asking ourselves, is it important for us to change our lives? Is there importance for us to shift out of that relationship? And we stay there, the fear that comes up is the fear that if in fact I leave this job, I leave this situation, I leave this relationship, is on the other side of that is the unknown. We don't know it. So then our fears of everything else comes up behind that. Our fear is that, will I be taken care of? Our fear of, how is it going to work? What is there? And on top of that comes our need to know what is in the unknown so we're safe and secure. So I really feel that the fears that we have are largely the fear of the unknown. And within that, are we powerful, strong enough, and loving, honoring, and valuing ourselves enough to know that when we walk through the door of the unknown, it is not about fearing the unknown, but it's about being the fullness of ourselves and what we bring to that unknown, and our power of manifestation, of knowing what we want to create in the unknown will happen, and all we really need is ourselves to do that. So it brings us back to the relationship that we're having with ourselves. And if we're ready to shift and change out of wherever we are, then we move into, we can deal with the feelings of what we fear. Because what we're really frightened of are all the feelings underneath fear. Am I good enough? Am I perfect enough? And all of that good stuff.
Beautiful, brother. 100%. 100%, man. What an opener. Yeah, man. I'll piggyback on that, Jeff, and I'll start digging in there, man. And you think we're coming off that big year last year, as we were aware. Our community here on at Real Men Real Talk Live, as always, here from the land down under. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I know most of my brothers and sisters here that are watching this show, they're lit enough to understand that a lot of that unknown, that uncertainty was really nearly a rite of passage last year. It's really initiation time. What Mr. Jeff Fonsano is talking about here is really the ego surrendering. The ego is coming to its knees, my brothers and sisters, because the ego has always wanted to be in the known. See, one of those things we've got to understand, and I said this in a video this morning, is that from a biological point of view, you got to think, many scientists, they say we've carried on this idea of fear as an evolutionary biological product of us running from the tiger, being able to turn it on, activate that switch in case of danger, failure, threat. So what's really happened, unfortunately, is over evolution and time, we seem to have carried that fear into our daily lives. So even for those very, very small, minute stresses, little challenges, little obstacles that may come up within our lives, we turn on the fear factor. We turn on the fight or flight, and we find ourselves in these fear states and becoming addicted to the hormones that are attached to fear. Now, this shit gets deep because we've got to understand when we're getting attached to hormones like cortisol, like adrenaline, and all these other stressful hormones, that when we're constantly in fight or flight, we're in survival mode, my brothers and sisters. We're in survival. So the ego has always just wanted to survive. But as my brothers and sisters out there in our lit community know, as we've walked into this fifth dimensional way of being, state of being, not based on our circumstances, but a state of being, that we're able to come not from a logic or mind space, but from that heart opening that is really an opportunity for us to really open and be that unlimited potential in possibilities, not from the limitations and the conforms of the ego mind, which has been sitting in fear. So we've really got to dissect this tonight, my brothers and sisters, and really give some beautiful tools here on at Real Men Real Talk Live. I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
Josh, what are you making of?
Ev, you brought up a great point, and I think before we dive into like how we can or what we can do with our fears is the point that you brought up, the stress chemicals that are released in the body and the constant state of tension the body stays in when we allow ourselves to indulge in these fears. And there was a great analogy, I can't remember who said it, but they were saying, our body's time of like rest and, time, like meditation or time that your body is at rest and in, not in any peak state, good or bad, is when your body's repairing itself. and you're changing out broken shingles on the roof of the house, or you're cleaning out the house's gutters so it doesn't, flood. But if a fire keeps breaking out in the kitchen, i.e. stress chemicals, fear, things that are bringing that up, you're not going to be able to do the repairs on your house if you have to keep tending to these fires that keep breaking out. So I always love that analogy because it was a really great way to think of, giving that body time to be at peace and be at rest. And it needs that to repair and stay out of dis-ease. So yeah, but fear. I'm so glad we're doing this topic because it's huge, and it played a big role in my life for sure.
Yeah,
beautiful, brother.
One of the things I want to bring up here, I really want to dig in a little deeper than just on the surface here, because we all have mentioned, we've all talked in conversations in general about the obvious things that we fear, like we fear failure. Many of us may even say we fear dying. But what if we were to invert those two? Instead of fearing failure, how often are we actually fearing success? And instead of are we fearing dying, how many of us are fearing to live? So we play small. So it's an interesting question I propose, and I invite any one of you to jump in and share your perspective on it, because a lot of times what we think we are fearing, it actually isn't that. It's the opposite.
You nailed it for me, Jay.
In what way?
For me, it's that I'm afraid of my potential. And I'm afraid of maybe not being able to hide behind excuses. What is on the other side of that? If I give it 1,000%, what is that like? And once you go there, can you go back? I don't know. I don't know. These are some of the places my mind goes.
Do you think that is a stronger drive or a draw into that vortex versus the one of failure? Because let's call a spade a spade. Gosh, you've had some, as an outsider looking in, you've had great success.
I thought you were going to say epic failures.
Well, I like to focus on the things that you have achieved. That does include the lessons with the missteps. However, as an outsider looking in, you look like someone who's had great acclaim in your career, in your young life, and yet you just acknowledged something that you tend to fear more of making it big. What is behind that fear, do you think? Is it fear of, well, you tell me, because otherwise I'm guessing. What's behind that fear? Because there's something more there than that. The fear is just a symptom. It's just a story you're creating.
Exactly. Yeah.
I feel like I'm afraid that I be held to such a high standard or a level, or held to wouldn't be able to fall back on any excuse. I don't know. These are all we're discovering this together.
Yeah,
because I've never been here, so this is unclear to me, and maybe we can circle back around. But
beautiful.
I've never been asked to articulate this. So
okay,
that's
a fair statement right there, Jeff.
And
you look like you're itching there.
Well, when I think of fear of failure, fear of success, it's deeper than that. It's much deeper than because for me, success is relative. Whatever you feel success is in your life is relative. What gets people stuck, and people that I know, and even me at certain levels of my career, is underneath it is the feeling that I'm not good enough.
There you go.
And so, like I said earlier, underneath fear, and Jay, you just said it. Fear is really is the surface. Underneath that, it goes deeper than what I'm frightened of. Really, what we're frightened of is the feelings that come up if, in fact, we're asked to move out of a comfort zone. If, in fact, we want to take the next step in a career that takes us to another level. The feeling of I will never be perfect enough. I'm not perfect. The fear of the feelings of I'm not perfect. The feelings of I'm not good enough. So if you're asked to step out of a comfort zone and into the world, the feelings that come up is I'm never going to be good enough. I'm never going to be perfect enough. Then it's really the fear of those feelings, and feeling those feelings and nurturing those feelings. Because if, in fact, I'm asked to do a photo shoot with this person, if those feelings are so strong inside of you, you're more than likely going to sabotage it, because that becomes a reality within, as Eva said, in your mind, and not with the truth of where you are in the moment of who you truly are. So it's really about when those feelings come up, is to nurture those feelings, because if you're stepping through that door of the unknown, am I good enough? Will I be perfect enough? Am I lovable? All of these things come up. So you'd rather play it safe and stay in a comfort zone so you don't face those feelings head on, and then nurture yourself and have those feelings and move past them, meaning I can feel the deepest not good enough in me and still move forward into another level of my life.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think what you're uncovering there, Jeff, too, like you're saying, getting down to those deeper emotions that lie underneath fear, like Jay is talking about. You know, when we think of what really covers fear, fear is covered by a lot of anger within our lives. So then we're trying to think about what some of those emotions that lie under fear, some that come up for me, and we've talked about it show after show, some of those things within self-doubt within our lives, some of the shame that we maybe have carried, some of the guilt, some of the resentment, regret within our lives. And a lot of this, again, goes back to another story. You got to ask yourself, my brothers and sisters, is some of this fear even yours? Is it something that you've learnt?
Right.
Because when we go back to a lot of these stories that we tell about ourselves with fear, and we actually confront them, and we come to the realization that it was just some imaginary story that I was playing within my mind, then we gain this courage that we're able to overcome whatever obstacle comes up in the form of fear within our lives. So yeah, like you're saying there, brother, it's really getting down to that deep root of some of those things that may have kept us from wanting to be seen through success. You know, one of those things for me, and I think what our brother's talking about there, is that fear of success, of maybe being seen.
Yep. There you go.
Am I used to being seen within my life? As a kid, I was never seen. So what happens if I get seen in the spotlight and someone sees my imperfections?
Yeah.
What if someone sees my flaws? So the ego we create just after that beautiful childhood keeps us safe in this wild, wild west.
Yeah. Doesn't it come back to what you just said was running through. It's the fear of being seen, but then it comes back to how we feel about ourselves and how much we love ourselves and honor and learning about ourselves, because that was a challenge for me. The fear I had of getting up in front of a group and speaking.
There you go.
It wasn't about speaking and what I knew. It was about, oh my God, they're going to really see me. And I have so much shame and judgment about myself right now. They're going to see through me. They're going to see through the imposter that I am right now. And that is so intense. Those feelings are so intense. And I know it. It's a fear of being seen in the world. But ultimately, we all want to be seen for who we truly are.
Jeff, Jillian really nailed it. She kind of just put it in,
There you go.
in a beautiful way. She says, what if someone examines me the way I examine myself? So what I'd like to do is just take a moment to break it down. When I had achieved what I call the pinnacle of my own career, what I had worked towards for 2 decades was to make it to senior management in a corporation. I made it. But what ended up happening was I almost self-sabotaged my success, because underlying all of that, what I had achieved, what I had worked towards, inside myself, I had this feeling, this story, these thoughts, that it's only a matter of time until they're going to find out the truth about me. They're going to find out that I'm not as talented as the guy they thought I was when they hired me, when they recruited me. And all the stories that are attached to that statement. And I lived in that just shy of 8 years. And what I didn't know then was what you and Jillian and Ev have really touched on, which was I wasn't okay with me. I hadn't done any of that inner work to really learn how to accept myself, love myself, honor myself as I was, and have that confidence. So all that I was showing on the outside, wearing that suit and tie, was just my armor that gave me this false sense of power. Now, I know I'm speaking a language that many of you can identify with, as listeners even. We have people in very high political arenas that I'm sure show up the way I showed up in my career at that time. And in Hollywood, in all industries, in the corporate world, we're showing up with this false sense of identity, because it's that feeling of, when they find out the truth, I'm going to be in trouble. But I don't think we have to have the story end that way. Once we have the awareness that that is just an indication or a symptom, that there's shadows there, there's some old, unresolved, undissolved personal perspectives of who we are, which has to do with our own self-esteem, then we have an opportunity to break through that. Because when we break through there, we break through to freedom. That's the inner freedom. It's just like, know that, okay, I'm good. I'm good at what I do. I enjoy what I do. Whatever healthy story we can create around this new truth. What do you make of that, Ev?
Beautiful, brother. 100%. The good old story, like you're talking about. Oh, I love that story that you share so beautifully every time, Jay. And you know, you talk about that armor. You know, your armor was in the form of a suit. I guess I've openly come out about my story that my armor was in the form of the body. So, you know, there was plenty of years there where I was building the armor called my body, just to hide some of that that confusion and that shame and that, I guess, embarrassment as a child, you know, witnessing what I had to witness as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, man, I'm hearing you, brother. 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Mary says here, our stories we tell ourselves are never true. It's our perspective of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Mhm.
It's
So-
gaining a greater level of intimacy with ourselves.
Mm. Mhm.
So how do we break our relationship that we hold on to that through the creation of our fearful thoughts, whether we're fearing success, we're fearing failure, we're fearing intimacy. How many of us in this room are willing to raise your hands and say that I have either feared or I continue to have some shadows of fear around intimacy?
Yeah, man. I talked about that last week, brother. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think fear fear of intimacy really, to me, is the big picture in many ways.
Yeah, 100%.
In a love relationship, a friendship, because the fear of intimacy is ultimately underneath that is about being seen.
Mm. Mhm.
I've just had that tested in my life tenfold, 100-fold in the last week.
Tell me more, Jeff Asana.
Oh, he's opened up the can of worms.
And I realized on the other side of it that when I moved through it, it was wonderful on the other side of it.
Mm.
Moving through this deep fear of intimacy, which was really just a judgment and shame of myself. And then moving through that and being nurturing, having it being nurtured and it's safe, because that's the key to it. When we hit that crescendo of those feelings, and you could open up and say, I'm so frightened right now.
Mm.
And then nurturing that, and then the heart breaks open, and then on the other side of that is what we all want, is that intimacy, that loving connection with whatever it is, with another person, with your job, with your career, with a friend, breaking through that which is all in our heads, in our conditioning and our story. And if it's nurtured and you break through it, and really what you're nurturing is that wounded child who is frightened and judging and shaming and really yearning after that connection. When you nurture yourself and move through it, it is really pretty damn cool and wonderful on the other side of it.
Well, Jeff, I'm going to challenge you in this moment here. I'm going to get real with you.
I knew Jay was coming in. I knew he was coming
Buckle
in,
up,
Jay.
brother. Buckle up. Right. First of all, you make it sound, it rolls off your lips like it's easy street. Right. And we
No
know
way.
we know that that's just BS. So what was different this last week from all the other last weeks from the first 63 years of your life? What was different this time? How did you show up differently that gave you permission to show up? What did you do differently?
It wasn't what I did.
Was it with the women that you were engaged with? What was the difference?
Well, what the difference was is that it was acceptance, compassion, nurturing, that it was safe to move out of where I was. That's what it was, Jay. It's okay.
Can you repeat that? Repeat.
Compassion,
Yeah.
acceptance for where I was, nurturing and loving, that allowed me to feel safe,
Mm.
to move through it to the other side. In the my nervous system was trembling, but it was compassion, acceptance, nurturing, and loving that made me feel safe to go to that side. And that's what it was.
Mm.
It wasn't Jeff the adult seeing that because I was the adult. It was little Jeff, the wounded Jeff, that was frightened to death to move through it. That when I moved to the other side, I moved into the adult Jeff. And that's the key. So if that was the key for me, that moved me to the place of really dropping from here into here, knowing it was safe to be there, knowing that it was accepted and everything was okay.
So, if I may paraphrase what I think I heard you say, Jeff, women, ladies, what your man needs from in a relationship is the same thing you need from us. I know that's true. I'm going to say is creating that safe space where you are not judging, but listening, not just listening, but hearing, not just hearing, but seeing, not just seeing, but feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that we missed? Really? Ultimately, we all have that same need. But we haven't been taught and we haven't practiced how to show up differently in those moments of intimacy where you're trying to make a new connection.
Yep. This week, so much of my armor, I mean, just cracked wide open. To a place it's never, it's never been before. And it's like you said, Jay, earlier, it is so friggin' damn freeing when you just, and the interesting part of it is that when you're moving through it, you can feel a part of you inside pulling you. It's like this, it's your ego pulling you back, and you can feel the tug of war inside of yourself. It's incredible, and that no, I'm not going there. No, I'm not going there. And then you break through, and you go, "Whoa, man, this is cool."
Love it, brother.
Congrats, Jeff.
Love it, man. Yeah, look, I mean, some of those beautiful words you're using, and a lot of our brothers out there, if there's anyone, brother, that's watching, listen to some of those words this man is eloquently speaking: nurturing, accepting, compassion. I mean, for a brother, a male or masculine energy, when you hear some of these particular words come into play, you're witnessing the balance of that sacred union of that divine feminine and sacred masculine coming together as the one. So, man, I'm really happy for you, Jeff, man. That's lit, man.
Josh, what are you making of all of this conversation as we have kind of flipped the switch to fear of intimacy, which is always a great topic to jump into. We've been there before. Early in 2020, we went there. But if we're here, let's just stay here for a few more moments. What do you make of this? Because we're all relational, and well, I'm interested to hear from you what your experience has been most lately.
I'm just being a student of life right now. I'm listening to each of you. I feel like this is the episode where I just sit back, take it in, and I've just been kicking around your initial question too, Jay. So, and I think I figured out what that was.
All right.
If you want to close out this fear of intimacy, we could come back to me, but I think I figured out what it is.
All right, let's jump in.
It's funny. I've always I think just deep down I had sort of like a knowing or a feeling that I could do more or be more. And that's driven me to push through a lot of my fears in life, and a lot of I've bumped into a lot of ceilings where I thought that was it, and I had to work to push past that and push through those fears and what was keeping me back in those moments. And I think my ultimate deepest fear and my deepest fear of seeing what's possible, what the ultimate, like me letting go 1,000% and going towards it, towards my goals with just a veracity that and a confidence and a knowing. I think that why I can't do that and what I'm so afraid of is that I'm wrong. That this knowing or feeling that I've had my whole life that I can do more and be more and live bigger, I'm afraid I'm wrong. And it almost feels like it would be easier to live a life where you said, I tried and I didn't make it because of this, that, whatever, blah, 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 than to have tried and found out that you're wrong. Yeah, I think that would suck worse. So, but this is another ceiling and another story and another thing to break through. And so awareness is key, and fear can be our guide. Fear is a wonderful guide. I often look for those moments when I am both terrified and excited. And there's that famous quote. What is it? If you're both terrified and excited, you should definitely do it, or something like that. But I look for those moments. I really, really do. And with excitement, because I know that there's opportunity there and that there's something I really, really want deep down inside. If we can just get to the next level, past this level of fear, there's going to be freedom and joy and excitement and those things that are deep there. So yeah, this is another. Thank you all for allowing me to see tonight, to shine some light into that dark corner and say, what is this?
Josh, I just want to take a moment here just to honor you for going deep within and taking some time in this moment to really process that challenging question. But I think you've already answered that for yourself, even before you acknowledge this in this moment, because you have acknowledged that you had a project that was your passion project, and it didn't work out. It was a startup. And so you answered the question because here you are today. You're alive. You're healthier than you were, right? You have learned things about yourself you didn't know prior. So how bad is that in the end? Again, we hear the fear more than really what comes from it is we're all the guests. If you hadn't gone through that experience of not making it, yet you have made it. You've come out on the other side. But thank you so much for sharing that.
You nailed it too, Jay. You nailed it too, that the fear of the impending doom of the implosion of that startup, those were more painful years. Those 3 years of pre-implosion were far worse than years after. Those were the sleepless nights. Those were the nights my brain was trying to figure out the unknown, like Jeff was talking about. And I was drinking to dull the pain and the fear and the stories that Ev was talking about, that I was becoming a failure. Like, yeah, the lead up was far worse than after it happened. It's almost like after it happens, you're like, well, okay, here we are. And then the sun comes up again.
Yeah.
And then you're like, shit, I'm alive.
Right.
All those years I thought this would kill me. And you wake up the next day and you got to keep it. And then there's a day after that and a day after that. And as those days tick by, you start to heal.
Yeah.
And so
Beautiful. Thank you, Josh. Richard.
You
Bring
know,
it home one more time. What I'd like to do, I want to shift gears on us in this moment. I want to come back to something I brought up earlier in the show tonight, and that's the fear of death. And I want to spend a few minutes here because with so many people globally having been affected since 2020 with the pandemic, many of us have experienced the loss of a friend or a loved one, and or many of us that have not had COVID yet, living in fear, the fear of the what ifs. From the perspective of fear of dying, whether it be COVID, whether it be a medical condition, diagnosis that is catastrophic, life-threatening, terminal, how do we embrace a diagnosis and a prognosis and not bring ourselves to the obsessive thoughts of dying and fear of dying? And this is a challenging segment because unless we have faced it, do we really know?
Deep, J. Roth, the man, deep. Wow,
Right,
fear of dying, man. Yeah, I mean that's a great point that you bring up there, Jay. If if we've actually been in that position, how do we actually know?
Yeah.
And that's why I come back to what I said earlier about some of these learnt programs that we take on about fear. To me, we're not here. We're not present. We're thinking out there. We're thinking in the past. We're thinking of a possibility in the future, but we're not here in the now. So when we can come back to that present, and if we are faced with some of these illnesses, some of these sicknesses that may come up within our lives, or even know someone, be present. Like I said, start building that compassion and that ability from hopefully a bit of resilience that you've built in your lifetime to be able to sit with that person or yourself and think of a plan that you can be able to embrace what is about to happen. Because when we get on the deeper levels, my brothers and sisters, we never die. It is still an ego thing. But for so many of us, and the third dimension, the ego brain thinks of the death as the never ending or going into that unknowing. But really, it's a cycle. It's a beginning. It's an end. It's a beginning. It's an end. And like his brother Josh Richards said, you're going to see that sun come up every morning. You're going to see that moon go down. We're all going to die one day, my brothers and sisters.
Robert Brooker says here, I've been dead before. It was one of the most beautiful experiences of my transition from the old life to the new.
There you go. Beautiful, brother.
So whether he was actually in a medical condition or he's speaking from a metaphor perspective, I don't know that it really matters. What matters is that he is embracing the new life that he has, and it sounds like a lot of gratitude in this moment for Robert Brooker. Thank you for sharing that, Robert.
Beautiful.
So wouldn't it be prudent that since we are all here and we are alive, is to begin to embrace with gratitude that we are here, we are alive, and we here to enjoy every moment of it if we can. Move through any fears that we have. If we can shift from always feeling a feeling of fear and being in a place of fear of what's out there especially everything that we're fed from out there in the 3D that keeps us in a constant high state, like Josh was talking about, that high anxious state of being fed. This is going on in the world. This is what's happening. These are how many people have passed, and all of this that keeps that heightened state of fear. That we lose the sense that what we're here to experience is joy, and shift our consciousness to that place of life is to be enjoyed. Life is to be lived with fulfillment. That anything that is being fed to us, whether it's being fed to us from outside of ourselves in the 3D or the conditioning from mom and dad, that it's all been conditioned and programmed, that maybe we've never even modeled a fulfilled, joyous life. A couple of weeks ago, Ev hit my major button. I associated pain with love. What's up with that? That was totally has been dispelled in the last week or two in my life. That pain and love, fear, being frightened. My father lived his entire life in fear. And that was my model. He was right. And then he finally admitted that when he was about to make his transition. He was frightened of everything. And that was my model, that life is not here to enjoy and fulfilled and expressing yourself and being all you can be. It was living in that fear that something was going to happen out there. So anyway, it's just about shifting our mindset into we're here. Let's live with gratitude. Let's know that we're here to live life to our fullest. Let's turn off the TV, not us, but let's turn off, the anything that's being fed to us, because it's about moving, as Ev always says, into a multidimensional or a fifth dimensional existence, that in our soul plan, we are perfect and right where we need to be.
I want to just take a moment, Jeff, and thank you for sharing. This is very powerful words you just shared. And I want to acknowledge if I may paraphrase what I heard you say, is that your dad lived in constant fear his life. And how often are we not aware, and have you kind of touched on this in your opening segment tonight, is that we inherit someone else's fears, someone else's fear-based thought patterns, fear-based interpretation of living, and we own it like it's ours because we live it. But when we're willing to really examine it and take some time and have the awareness and go ask the question, is this even mine? Or is it my dad's? Is it my mom's? Is it that one person that had the strongest influence on my youngest years as a child? And I got tattooed or tagged with this from them. This is the ultimate inheritance. And what I have learned is that we don't have to hold on to it anymore. We can give it back in a very loving, ceremonial way. We can break free of someone else's fears that have held us in bondage our entire adult life. I want to go back before we get into our closing segment of magical chairs. I do want to share, because I brought up the question before about fear of dying as it relates to someone that may be facing a medical condition, a medical diagnosis and prognosis. And I've been there in my own life. And I can only speak from my own experience. And that is, for me, I looked at and continue to look at the possibilities of living versus dying and breaking it down to just a few points. One is that I had to be willing to examine what was it that got me sick in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Because the illness, the condition, usually is brought on by up here. It starts in our mind and our life experiences. It doesn't just show up. It shows up because it's been a lifetime of us holding on to something within that is not working for us. And so I had to be willing to really examine all of my relationships within and without of myself, outside of myself. I had to be willing to examine how I was taking care of myself, how I was treating myself emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And I had to be willing to detach and let go of those things that no longer serve me. And if in fact they were something that I inherited from my mom or dad or a sibling, friends, bosses, I had to be willing to let it go and really focus on what I began to understand what was best for me. The other aspect for me was I had to be willing to embrace the idea of welcoming the universe or God into my life, the divine, as some may say, power greater than myself, because I didn't want to live in fear anymore. Matter of fact, the ultimate test for me was it took me about 4 months to have the courage to take myself off of my last pharmaceutical, which was a blood thinner, and having trust and faith that I will be okay because my time is not up. I've got way more life in this lifetime. And when I was willing to take that chance, it took me 4 months to build up, to step into that fear. It's been, I think, over 2 years now. And I'm grateful that I had the courage to do that. Now, I'm not advocating and suggesting that you all stop taking your blood thinners, but it was what was right for me. It made sense, and it still does. And so I just wanted to share that because I felt like I've been there from a medical condition. And yes, it's difficult when we watch our brothers and sisters that don't make it. But we also have to take accountability for our own choices in our life, our own behaviors. Who is controlling our life? Who is managing our choices? Is it coming from unconditional love for ourselves? Is it coming from guilt? Is it coming from shame? Is it even ours? And here's where the ultimate freedom comes in, is when we can release our fear, whatever it be, we are on our way to healing. And so with that, I want to open us up to musical chairs for those that are new to the program. How it works is when you are to my right, that means you're up. You got 2 minutes to share either tips, tricks, and tools, and or I may actually tonight change it up a little bit and hit each one of you with a question. It may be the same question. It may be something different. But I'm going to give this little bit of a different kind of show closing this evening and your opportunity is to answer the question in the moment. And so let's see. I'm going to have Jeff Fasano. You're going to go first tonight. You're going to warm us up. So Jeff, let's see. Okay, Jeff. Here's your question. You really dug in tonight and touched on intimacy. So I'm going to change it up on you. I'm going to stay away from it. Okay, so Jeff, here's your question. Do you fear really living life?
Not anymore.
That's pretty straight to the point, Jeff.
Not anymore.
What's changed?
My heart has been cracked open so dramatically and immensely to life, to intimacy, to love, to that place of where, let me put it this way, life. My heart has been cracked open to life.
Yeah.
To life as it is, to life, to living it, to the unknown of it, to surrendering to the unknown, surrendering that what's in the unknown is not going to be sad or painful. That life is beautiful in its simplistic form of connection, in its simplistic form, that it is not so complicated out there. We in our brains, in our conditioning, in our programming, think life is so damn complicated. And it's not. It is so simple. Love is so simple. So what has happened for me is that by me dropping out of my brain and even healing so much and my heart opening up, it opens up to life. To life.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jeff Fasano.
Beautiful, brother.
Okay.
I'm going to say this, Jeff, tonight is, when you're feeling good, when we're feeling good, we're in a high. The challenge is that we can't sustain that high because we know that life is ebbs and flows. It's the highs and lows. And this is just an open question. This is just for thought. How can we sustain what you described when we have that drop in that high? We're not in that either adrenaline or the oxytocin, which is the love hormone, and the longer you're away, you don't have that touch. Is it sustainable? That's the question. And so, thank you, Jeff Fasano.
To be honest with you, it's not sustainable because we go through expansions and growth. Quantum physics, we're going to contract back. So we know that going in. I'm experiencing an expansion, but I know there will be a contraction, but I'm not going to sink into the contraction. I'm going to do my best to stay here because I'm going to expand again.
Okay, beautiful.
Beautiful, brother.
Love it.
All right. Well, we'll play catch up in about a month or so. We'll see if what Ron Alvarado says. We'll see if he's onto something here or not. He says I call BS on Jeff Fasano. We can build this hierarchy. I'm having a hard time spelling tonight, pronouncing tonight. But we cannot control what life gives us. We can want versus difference. Well, we'll see. More will be revealed over time. Thank you for sharing that. Ron Alvarado, welcome back to the show. Coming in from Blaine, Washington. Good to see you. So we're going to have Josh Richard. We're going to have you jump in. And Josh, thank you so much for being here tonight. This has been quite the week for you. And we didn't know if you were going to make it in tonight. And you have not only made it in, you showed up. And so I just want to acknowledge you in this moment. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Jay. Yeah, I hadn't explained to everybody, but I had an emergency surgery on Tuesday. Minor surgery, but still fast and necessary. So still healing. But so grateful to be here. I wouldn't have missed this for the world. This safe, loving place that we can all experience life and share our experiences together and feel seen and feel heard, and feel understood. And it's amazing. It's amazing. I love you all.
Here's your question, Josh Richer.
I think I got mine. I don't know. What is it? I might just go rogue and just answer my own question.
Okay, go rogue. This is your moment, Josh.
All right, I'm going rogue. I'm going off the reservation. I have been afraid to truly live, and I think last year I was afraid I was slowly dying, and I was a victim of my fear, my stories, and something called one-day disease. One day when all the things are right, I'll be able to travel. One day when everything's great, I'll be able to work from a laptop on a beach, which has been my dream for all of my adult life. And last year I woke up and in the middle of a pandemic and realized I was slowly dying, and that I'd never truly lived, and I'd never truly done that dream. And so I took off. I left. I haven't fully explained the story to all of you yet, but I left my apartment in LA. I gave up my spot in Santa Monica. I packed everything into a shipping container that I owned, and I took off to shoot a documentary about our stories and how dangerous they are, and how my life changed by changing my stories and my thought patterns, and to wake others up, which is the greatest feeling on earth, and to follow my dream of waking others up. And all of the amazing, wonderful fears that the brain unearthed along every bit of this journey and this step into the unknown, and coming down to Brazil and now going to Mexico to finish the project, and all of the setbacks and surgery and all of that have come up along the way. So, and there was the fear too, Jay, you brought it up earlier about COVID. And I was a 20-year smoker, and I am not in a good place to be exposed to this disease. But it felt, God, being faced with staying home in my apartment longer and slowly dying versus finally living and doing this dream of mine, like I was willing to die doing this to finally live free, 100% free. I don't have a place to be. I can do anything I want tomorrow. I'm moving forward with this project into the unknown. And so, yes, and I'm not going to say it's all been sunshine and roses. I've been actually dealing with a lot. A lot has been coming up for me. But the lessons have been beautiful, and the scenery is incredible. And to say that I'm completely free right now is so much better than slowly dying at home. So I'm truly, truly blessed, and to be doing this with a wonderful woman, such a special person to me in my life, and to be sharing this experience, and to have a documentary come out at the end of all this. I was willing to die to be free.
Magic, brother. Absolutely beautiful, brother. Wow.
So.
I'm going to put myself in a hot seat right now, and I'm going to give Evis the privilege to close us out tonight. And I'm going to invite one of you gentlemen to hit me up with a question, since I've been kind of slinging at all of you this evening, slinging love and kindness and respect. But now's your chance to hit me up. Who wants to hit me with a question?
Go on, Jeff. I know you're holding one back.
Questions tonight.
What'd you say, Jeff?
Go ahead, Josh. He hit you up with 2 questions tonight.
Oh man, I don't know.
Are you inviting him for give me payback?
Yeah.
Man.
No pressure.
What is your what is your deepest fear that you may not have even admitted to yourself yet?
Mm-hmm. Mm.
That's deep. That's deep.
Yeah.
I can see the emotion behind it, Jay.
Yeah. Yeah. That my sons won't truly ever forgive me, and that they won't really know who the man that I am today. They'll just know living who I was. That's my biggest fear, is that they won't know the man that I have become. And the beautiful thing is one of my sons came into town today, and I don't know if he's ever seen the show before, but he's here in my tiny home, so he's hearing it one way or the other. But it's no coincidence, Josh, that you asked that question. Because that's really the most important thing in my life, is that my sons know who I am, really know me. But there's where I get to practice faith, And faith is that it's not on my time, it's on God's time. And I think the back part of that is that each of my sons understands how much I love them in a way that words cannot even describe. That I die before they have that understanding. Simple, not easy. So thank you, Josh, Richard.
Love you, Jay.
Beautiful, brother. Absolutely beautiful.
Love you.
Thank you. Ed, I'm gonna bring you up into the hot seat right now. And I've got a question prepared for you, my friend.
Oh, I thought you wanted me to finish the show with a question.
Well, you can take control in one moment, but I do want to be fair to you, since we've all had a question to answer. And this question is, what is the biggest fear your parents downloaded onto you that you may or may not have released yet?
Man, which one do I start with, Jay?
I'm going to turn it over to you now.
And that's the thing, my brothers and sisters, we've carried many fears within our lives, like I said to my brother there, which one do I start with? Wow, I talked about the fear of rejection last week, me putting up the guards of being hurt within that intimacy within a relationship. I talked about how abandonment, because they weren't around when I was probably needing them the most at a time in my life when I was so vulnerable as a child. Didn't really talk about the fear of authority, a big one within a lot of the culture here in the land down under. It's also that fear of authority. So really respecting the authority within your life. So those two big ones that came up for me first, man, was that fear of rejection. It was the fear of abandonment that I had to accept and really come to terms with, all in this space very quickly. And it's been coming over such a long time within my awakening. But when I brought it up last week, when it was made so clear that fear had to be accepted. The fear really had to be felt. I had to sit with those fear of rejection and abandonment. And now I'm making fear my friend. I'm making fear my friend, my brothers and sisters. I'm not fighting fear anymore, because I know after I've walked with those fears for most of my life, most of my adult life, up until this point, that now I can see on the other side that true breakthrough to the freedom that we're talking about here tonight, my brothers and sisters. So yeah, Jay, thanks for asking that, man. They're definitely two of those big things for me that come up on point with that question at this present. But one that I'll definitely sit with, and you know, if you've been out there, I guess if you wanted me to finish up on the show tonight, my brothers and sisters, and really thank you, my brothers and sisters on the other side of the pond, for all your support, love, gratitude, and attention. Because as always, us here, brothers, here on the Real Men Real Talk Live, we're open up deep, we're open up our hearts to share with you through personal experience and our story for you to be able to ascend to your highest possible version. And that's what we've walked into, my brothers and sisters. This really mature conversation that we're now being able to address with relationships, with intimacy, with fear, with love, all of these deeper conversations that allow us to truly ascend into this multi-dimensional, fifth-dimensional being that we talk about on this show. Now, so many of us, we've taken so many fears into our adult life. We grow up as children, and like we say, we inherit some of the inheritance that we probably don't really want to inherit. It'd be nice to have some probably other figures other than some of the fears that we've taken on, but they've really made us who we are today. So we need to ask ourselves, my brothers and sisters, have I reconnected back to self? You know, we didn't talk about us making the agreement and making the reconnection with our body. Our body has its own mind, it has its own consciousness. We are all witnessing a spiritual, a physical, an emotional, an energetic awakening of thyself. And until we really uproot some of these deepest fears that we've talked about tonight, accept some of these deepest fears, sit with some of these fears, or like I'm really taking on, making fear our friend, then we're always going to be left in the past. So we really have to connect back to the body and make it believe this time around, in this lifetime, that this is the time, that this is the one, that we can truly ascend, not only as individuals, but as a collective on this planet Earth, so we can go into the space that we want to provide for the future generations that come behind us. So I thank you, my brothers and sisters, here on at Real Men Real Talk Live, and as always, from the bottom of my heart, here in the land out under, peace be within.
Beautiful. Thank you, Av. I want to thank our viewers and listeners for joining us this evening in this this deep conversation tonight. One that brought tears, some joy, some gratitude, some challenges, and most importantly, love for one another. If you have heard something that you found resonated with you, please share it out in your own community of friends and family. Invite your friends and family to check out Real Men, Real Talk Live. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Next Friday night, same time, same channel, Facebook and YouTube Live. We're coming in at the same time. Please join us. Be safe. Take some time for self-care this weekend. Take some time to reflect on tonight's topic and dive in the way we just did here and ask yourself, what is it that is the deepest root of your fear in your life? And then be willing to face it. Be willing to surrender to it. Be willing to have the courage to step through it. When we do that, we are one step closer to what we call freedom. As Eva said in today's live pre-show promo, freedom. And with that, we'll catch you guys next week on Real Men, Real Talk Live. Peace out.